Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karin Helmstedt.
Greetings from Berlin and a warm welcome to our highlights edition. And here's a quick look at some of the top stories we've got coming up. Hot Heels, a retrospective of Christian Louboutin's iconic designs. All Change, Herlinde koelbl's new exhibition is a study in how clothes make the man. And top attraction, Berlin's Gallery Weekend, is a major art event. But we start off with British artist Chris Gilmour, who makes life-size sculptures out of cardboard. And while he initially did want to work with other materials, he realized quite early on that his cardboard prototypes were almost more interesting on their own. Well, we met up with him at his studio in the northern Italian city of Udine.
An Aston Martin DB5 and a Triton motorbike both look like they're ready to roll. The sculptures are the work of Chris Gilmour. The British artist replicates every detail and doesn't use any supporting elements.
The thing that I like is the contrast between a very poor material and very beautiful objects, very desirable objects, but things that people want to have. And also the contrast between the fragility of paper and an object that is maybe a machine or a motorbike or a car or something heavy and solid. So it becomes a game between lightness and strength.
Gilmour usually spends between 3 and 6 months working on his sculptures, which can consist of up to 4,000 individual pieces. Collectors now pay 5-figure sums for his works. Along with vehicles, he also recreates other life-size objects, such as musical instruments. These sculptures are modelled on the Beatles' originals.
Here is that there's a second reading in the choice of the objects and the way they're presented, and also the boxes that they've come from. There's a lot of details that tell a story.
Gilmour is based in the northern Italian city of Udine. His studio is a converted car repair shop. This is where his lifelike objects take shape. First, he traces the contours of the original. Then he cuts out the pattern with his utility knife. The separate pieces are joined with glue. Gilmour says he got the idea of working with cardboard during his studies at the College of Art in Bristol, England.
I was using wood and bronze and stone and serious sculpture materials, but I was using cardboard to make the prototypes, to make models. And I was spending a lot of time making the models and then remaking them in wood, and I realised that the cardboard was great on its own.
Gilmour often comes up with new ideas on his strolls through his adopted home. He's been living in Udine for 15 years. He says he's fascinated by the stories behind everyday objects. Case in point, this vintage Fiat 500. He made his copy 15 years ago.
Has a very strong emotional impact on people. People really remember it. So remaking it, it's something that people feel very strongly towards.
His latest focus has been sculptures of people. These works have been made for an exhibition next year. And for the first time, he's added a coat of paint.
By using that, you can maybe encourage people to look at the world in a different way. I think in presenting objects which are almost real, you invite people to look again at the real objects.
In addition to exhibitions, Chris Gilmour's cardboard creations can also be found in galleries in Italy, France and New York.
Well, Well, over now to the British capital, where a new exhibition at London's Design Museum invites visitors to walk a mile in some swanky shoes. French shoe designer Christian Louboutin launched his label back in 1991 with the aim of creating shoes that were like jewels. And with their trademark shiny red soles, many fashionistas around the globe today still treasure them as such. Well, the exhibition looks back at his 20-year career.
His shoes have names like Maggie and Lady Corset. Their wearers need to have excellent balance and very deep pockets. The show-stopping heels can cost thousands of euros. Christian Louboutin is one of the world's most celebrated shoe designers.
The shoe is a very small element, it goes on the foot, but once you have it on, it completely transforms the body and the body language, and it actually like radiates around the body. And so that's definitely one thing. Once you have a shoe on, it not only changes your body posture, but also it makes you conscious of your own body, which is a thing, and evaluates all, start from the feet, but it goes all the way to the head.
The French designer has made a big splash in the fashion world with his statuesque footwear. His sky-high stilettos sport heels up to 16 centimetres high. Louboutin has been passionate about shoes since he was a child, when a sign forbidding high heels in a museum inspired him to paint pictures of shoes. He left school without qualifications and used his drawings to apply for a traineeship at the firm of designer Charles Jourdan. He began there in the early 1980s. In 1991, he opened his own shop in Paris. His first famous customer was Princess Caroline of Monaco. Nowadays, a host of celebrities such as Victoria Beckham, Kate Moss and Madonna wear his sculpted heels.
The moment where I sort of saw, I could imagine that things have been changing, is that I was in California, and I was carrying some of my shoes, hand luggage, and when I put them under the X-ray, the woman said, there are some shoes, and she unveiled them, the woman from the X-ray, and she started screaming. She said, oh my God, it's Louboutin, etc. So I thought, well, if it goes through the X-ray and the person gets excited, that's a big change.
So why has his scarlet-soled footwear achieved cult status among an entire generation of addicts?
When I first started working on the exhibition, I knew that there was a huge level of interest in Louboutin's work, but I think what I wasn't prepared for was this just total obsession with his shoes. And I started to when I was researching for the show, I started to talk to a lot of women who owned Louboutin shoes or who just, big fans, and asked them why they thought, why do you love his shoes? And there were a number of different reasons. Some women, interestingly, would wear Louboutin heels into a business meeting because it elevated them and made them the same sort of eye level as their male counterparts.
Now, through June the 9th, shoe lovers can indulge their obsession at London's Design Museum. As well as displaying the shoes, the exhibition offers an insight into Louboutin's design and manufacturing process. Louboutin creates summer and winter collections with up to 150 prototypes manufactured each season. The designs are varied, but they all have one thing in common: their trademark red soles. His shoes are often copied, but nothing comes closer to original Louboutins, as their fans call them.
No one wants to have shorter legs. No one wants to have a thicker ankle. If they have nice ankles, you want to keep them nice. If you don't have them so nice, you don't want to have them, overshown and doubled. I go back and back and back to the design, so it looks good as a design, but it looks good on. That's a very important thing. And I think that, when you go in that direction, women do feel it. They see the difference.
The exhibition celebrates 2 decades of Louboutin's career. Most of the 200 pairs of shoes on display are from his private collection. Museums all over the world are lining up to borrow the exhibition.
20 years is a short time. If you love what you do, it goes like this. It's like a weekend. You have a great weekend. It's like, a great movie, and it's, oh my God, it's 3 hours. But if you've been loving it and you've been loving all the moment of it, it goes so much quicker.
Christian Louboutin's shoes are elegant, luxurious and very alluring. But there's no point in falling in love with any of these. They're not for sale.
Well, in addition to shoes, the clothes we put on in the morning can often say a lot about our mood or about our personality in general. And the idea of going to work or school in a uniform can be like a disguise for the real person underneath it. Well, it's this observation that German photographer Herlinde koelbl explores in her latest project. Her work is currently on show at the Hygiene Museum in the eastern German city of Dresden.
What do you suppose this man does for a living? And this woman? A British lawyer with and without his wig. A German judge in robe and without. He's a businessman who wears a suit and tie. She's a nun in her habit. They're among the 70 people Herlinde koelbl has photographed in both their professional and everyday attire.
Every man knows what it's like to put on a suit and tie when you're not used to wearing one, how it changes you. Or when women put on a dress and high heels. There's an inner transformation. I find it fascinating.
Koelbl says that in countries like Japan, the discrepancy between people's professional and private identities is particularly large. That's why she included both Asians and Europeans in her project. What interests her most is the way clothing changes people's sense of their bodies and of their social standing. Many of the portraits were shot in Koelbl's Munich studio. She devoted 4 years to the endeavor. Spending a lot of time on a single project helps her get a better feel for her subjects. She often takes many photographs before she captures exactly the facial expression she's looking for.
I wanted the focus to be clear. The focus should be the person, the outfit, the dress, the uniform. The viewer should focus on what the people are wearing and, more importantly, how they're wearing it. To do that, you need a neutral background. When there are other things in the photo or a landscape, the viewer gets distracted. I don't stage my work. That's what's so wonderful about these photos. The people are real. You see they're alive. There's something individual about them.
One of her best-known projects was a long-term study of German politicians whom she photographed once a year. The pictures were a sensation when they were published in 1999. Among her subjects was Angela Merkel, who went on to become German Chancellor. The images are a study on how power changes a person's demeanor.
I love following through with an idea, overarching topics, the issues confronting our society. Projects like the one I did with politicians. It's a fundamental issue. It has to do with power.
Herlinde koelbl lives and works in Munich. She studied fashion design and didn't start working as a photographer until age 37. Her breakthrough came in 1980 with a photo book dedicated to Germans' living rooms, a study of private spaces. 20 years later, she reprised the idea, snapping pictures of bedrooms around the world. One belonged to the celebrated German film director Christoph Schlingensief, who died 2 years ago. Koelbl herself considers her 1989 study of Holocaust survivors among her most important projects. Titled Jewish Portraits, at the time, the youngest model was already 70 years old. Her latest project is dedicated to how clothing influences people's perceptions. Many of the models are officials or people who wear uniforms for work. She says she chose them because the contrasts were especially vivid.
An observer approaches a person in uniform differently, so there's an interplay. The person wearing the uniform behaves differently and interacts with people differently when wearing casual clothing. This topic touches on so many issues, so many levels, and that's what makes it so fascinating.
Even the smallest details of an outfit can change a person's self-perception and demeanor. The exhibition in Dresden runs through the end of July.
When 51 galleries open new exhibitions simultaneously here in Berlin, then you can bet it must be Gallery Weekend. That's an annual event that, since kicking off 8 years ago, now attracts art lovers, buyers and collectors from all over the globe. Well, this year, 25,000 visitors took in the event that included a novel virtual tour, but the real buzz was, of course, best experienced firsthand.
With everything from sculpture and installations to painting and video art, the Gallery Weekend showcases a wide variety of contemporary art. And it establishes Berlin as one of the premier international venues for art. A place where you can discover new art and meet the artists themselves, like the current winner of the prestigious Turner Prize, Martin Boyce from Scotland.
People come to Berlin anyway, it's an amazing city, but when you have this concentration of events, it means you're really pulling people in from all over the world. And so it's really this kind of focused moment where people can get together, and it can be as formal or informal as you want.
With his atmospheric sculptural landscapes, Boyce offers a reinterpretation of modernism. Lamps emerge like palm trees from desktops. His works have a subtle but compelling language all their own.
For me, art is much more about an open possibility. It's about interpretation and engagement. So you need to leave space for the viewer.
And viewers are captivated by his work. These visitors are a group of patrons from London's Tate Gallery. They came to Berlin especially for the weekend event.
To see the art, to meet the artists, to meet the local people, to pick up a little bit of the culture is very exciting and definitely worth it, and it's not so far away.
We've been to a number of artist studios today and we've met lots of artists, and as I said, it's been particularly interesting to hear about their lifestyle and the culture, the art culture in Berlin, and the history of how it's become so prominent, the art scene.
It's an international event with a very special Berlin flair.
This year, that special flair can also be experienced virtually for the first time. The 51 galleries are each represented by a cube superimposed on a map of Berlin. Visitors enter the 3D world as an avatar and tour the galleries and view the works of art. The Klosterfelde gallery is among those represented. Its owner, Martin Klosterfelde, is one of the event's founders.
Most people won't look at every one of the 51 galleries, but they can look online at what's on display and pick their favorites, the ones that interest them the most.
A group of 7 art dealers and gallery owners launched the Gallery Weekend in 2004. Today, it's become a leading event in contemporary art. It draws more than 25,000 visitors, tourists, artists and collectors who flock to Berlin to spend the weekend strolling from gallery to gallery, admiring the shows.
I'm absolutely in love with Berlin. I think it's a brilliant city, very happening, very modern, and lots of art everywhere. So it's great.
Berlin is electric. It's electric. It's people coming from all over the place for the love of art.
Well, it's cool because I know the artist who painted these paintings. We do our graffiti near his gallery, and that's why he invited us to come and see his paintings. So it's really pretty cool for me.
For gallery owners, the weekend is also a special opportunity. This year, 6 new ones were invited to join the event. Berlin boasts more than 600 galleries, so selecting the fortunate few is no easy task.
We look for the best exhibitions in the city, and we try to take everything into account. We're not trying to exclude people, but we do try to group people together who have a similar taste in art, a similar vision, and present the city in that way.
The first warm evenings of spring lure crowds of art lovers out onto the streets and into the galleries. On Gallery Weekend, art reigns supreme in Berlin, deep into the night.
And yet the weather here in Europe is notoriously unpredictable at this time of year, so it is wise to invest in some good outerwear. And this season, even the fashion-conscious are happy to brave the elements in new lines of sports-inspired clothing. German label Acronym and Italy's Stone Island are among a growing number of urban outfitters combining an outdoorsy look with cutting-edge fabrics. And we checked out that look on the streets of Berlin.
At this time of year, the forecast in Berlin frequently calls for showers. And if it started pouring right now, these two would be well equipped to withstand the rain. But their water and wind-resistant jackets aren't just practical, they're trendy. This versatile jacket has plenty of pockets for keeping everything dry on the go. And the trench for her even boasts magnets inside the collar. The Italian label Stone Island makes utility clothing designed to be more than just practical. Its liquid reflective jacket will keep you dry, but it's also an eye-catcher with thousands of light-reflecting glass microspheres. Utilitarian cool is also the look at German label Acronym. Canadian-born Errolson Hugh is the company's head designer.
Well, I think our process is different because it's kind of almost an industrial design process where we start with a problem and try to solve it. Although it's not purely technical either, because we see technology not as something to pursue as an end in itself, but rather as a way to achieve quality, actually. So technology should actually be invisible.
The label has decided to forego runway shows. Instead, the designer presents his collections online. Prices range from 500 to 1,200 euros. Acronym began as a men's-only label, but it's now branched out into women's wear. It launched its first line for women last year. Industry experts say utilitarian fashion is a growing trend.
International designers in New York, Paris, and Milan have taken their cue from sportswear, incorporating the theme in their runway collections. If someone pays 1,000 euros for a jacket, they don't just want to wear it for a workout. They also want to wear it in town and when going to a club. It's a major trend.
The aim is to make clothing that meets wearers' everyday needs. Besides looking good, it should also be versatile, easy to care for, and above all, comfortable. Women's wear has only recently picked up on the trend. For once, it's men who are leading the way.
Men love to dress casually and comfortably, but still be fashionable. They don't like to be squeezed into tight-fitting clothing. And when it comes to these functional materials, the loose-fitting cuts are perfect for that.
At this menswear store in Berlin's trendy Mitte district, André Storfall and Jörg Haas have been specializing in functional wear since 2004. Leading men's fashion magazines have devoted entire spreads to the season's sports-inspired clothing. Luxury labels have been quick to pick up on the trend. Practical accessories are their big sellers. But functional gear is also gaining ground in the luxury clothing sector.
The latest trend is to take traditional items and refine them with technical additions. Take wool, for example. You can laminate it with a Gore-Tex membrane. Or Italian cotton can be laminated with a windstopper. You can't even see the difference on the outside. It could even be the same classic cut, but with the bonus function.
This men's jacket by the label Visvim looks like a classic camouflage parka made of cotton. But the fabric is water resistant and also breathes. This women's jacket is the result of a partnership between the Italian label Herlinde and acronym designer Errolson Hugh. He regularly works with fashion houses and isn't afraid to experiment.
Another thing we worked on is a new kind of cuff. This is a storm cuff, which is suitable for skiing or snowboarding. And the unique thing about it is that it's fully adjustable but uses no Velcro. So there's nothing to ice up or fail after a certain amount of time. And you can wear it over or under glove, which means you can, depending on the type of glove you're using, create a perfect storm seal.
Whether in town or in the great outdoors, utility wear is a fashion-forward way to fend off the elements. But you don't have to wait for bad weather to step out in style.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of our highlights. So until next time, all the best from us here in Berlin, and thanks for watching. Ciao.